friends. I says, you haven't seen me for a while. I says, I don't know if it's been a year or half a year. But like I said, we're going to have a fun program today. But first of all, I'm going to shut this little birdie off here so it doesn't drive us all crazy. Let me just take the battery right out of it. All right, my friends. As we get into election time again, I want to speak some truth on many issues. Like I said, as I've had an opportunity and family members to travel around the world, it's actually quite interesting how we're nothing but a little grain of salt. I've flown in planes, I've traveled on ships, and it's quite interesting on my perspective of the world compared to other people. We're going to start the show where I'm Paul Reis. Like I said, my mom was Blanche Reis, and my dad was Jack Reis. And I'm going to kind of dedicate this show, since this month is Prevent Child Abuse or Awareness Month, I'm going to add that into my show a little bit with theatrical therapy. For anyone that's been through any type of trauma in their life, they need truth and honesty. And I struggle with my own government telling me about truth and honesty. My friend, he's in prison right now, made me this beautiful walking stick, and I said I'd use it in my show. He gave me what he could give me. He had nothing. He had a heroin addiction. He told me the truth. He struggles with it. So as I walk through my life's journey, I will use this walking stick to walk with him. I don't judge him. I don't judge anybody else. Unless you walk in their shoes, people that struggle with addiction or alcohol or drugs, it's a hard thing to overcome. We have many props I'm going to use today. One of them is, she's no longer running, but Nikki Haley actually proposed one of her ideas I saw from Donald Trump at the time, which Vermont voters voted for, one of the only states. She actually wanted people to work until the age of 78 before they retire. Nikki Haley, Bernie Sanders, all of you. This is a hoe. A grub hoe, we called it as a kid. I used this from the time I was probably 6 years old to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. I used to use it in construction of 82 hours a week. I now have permanent back damage because your body, depending on what job you have, you can't work until you're 78. So that's just a little reminder of those that have never done hard work in their life. As we get ready for the political season, you have all these political candidates, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. They say, oh, it's time to take the gloves off. Get ready for the fights. Well, these are my dad's old military boxing gloves years ago. I don't know if these guys really know what a real fight is. And at the end of the day, basically, nobody really wins in a fight or war or any of these issues. So I actually ask you to shake hands and try to just talk about the issues, not the digs and everything else. We have many candidates that are running for local boards. I don't need to mention them by name. Some of them been there 15, 30 years. You know what? They were in charge. They were driving the community through the issues. Brum, 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 the issues in our town and community. And basically, I believe they dozed off. They dozed off for maybe 15 years, 30 years. That's why you're facing like $8 million worth of issues. Fix a roof, fix the ventilation system, fix the driveway. They fell asleep, these people that were in charge at the wheel. So I'm actually still going to vote for the candidates that are on the school board because they're taking us through the issues. They're driving through the stormy weather of the budget and stuff. So that's what the prop is on that one. everyone says to me, "What the hell's wrong with you, Mr. Reis? What happened to you? What's your excuse?" Well, I'm going to tell you, my friends. Since it's a mental health awareness thing, I'm diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I went through a lot of trauma, and one of the stories I'm going to share with you, you probably never fell out of a car. When I was a youngster, I think it was coming home from church, going up Grizzle Drive, you go around the pump house, and I laugh, years ago, I fell out of a car. And my brother, that was the middle-aged boy, told my dad halfway up Grizzle Drive, he says, "Dad, Mom, I think Paul fell out of the car." And they said, "Huh?" Well, they didn't know to back up the car. They want to run me over, but they slowly backed down the hill, probably half a football field long. And they found me climbing up over a snowbank. I literally fell out of the car, and my parents didn't even know I fell out. And back then, they didn't bring you to a hospital. Maybe I suffered some issues then. Who knows? But I survived. I've survived many issues. I grew up pretty much without a dad since I was like 12 years old. He was sick. He knew he was dying at 56. And one of the traumas I went through, which I laugh about, you guys are excited about spring planting. I'm actually excited about spring planting too. But one of the issues that I suffered with trauma that I'm sure you guys never experienced either, we were planting flowers one spring, and I'm on my hands and knees planting the flowers, and my dad says, "That's going to grow to God," because we believe in God. And I made the mistake of saying, "Good enough, good enough." Well, my dad grabbed that shovel, and he stabbed me right through the stomach, and it bled, and I had probably like a 3-inch scar. But you know what? I didn't cry because my dad said, "I'll give you something to cry about." And he threw it down. He was so mad at himself for stabbing me with a shovel. I laugh about it today because some of the stuff is crazy, but it helps explain what I went through, a trauma. And I forgive my dad, and my mom would mix the soup, and we would all just kind of laugh about it. One other day, I laughed at my brother that got slapped by my dad, and he says, "You never laugh when somebody gets a beating." He didn't want us to watch a fight, nothing to do with a fight, because he knew he had over 56 fights in his lifetime, and it wasn't good to fight. So one time, I don't know if you guys ever got cold cocked before. I says, "I got cold cocked." I say, he cold cocked me. I landed on the floor, and I laughed. I got up. And that lesson taught me about respect about people. It wasn't right what he did. Maybe it'd be considered child abuse these days. But you learn respect real quick. Then we had this other thing, which I kind of laugh about right here. This is actually quite interesting too. You didn't even have to, when you came home from school, you had this hanging up on your staircase, okay? And if you saw that, that was called, you might get a can of whip ass. And I'll tell you what, just seeing that strap was enough to scare you in life. So what I'm saying is, that kind of explains a little history of why I'm doing this in the theatrical therapy, because it saves me basically $100 from going to talk to my good counselor. But now on the political issues, we're going to get started. Most of you see this as a dumbbell, which you use for lifting weights and stuff. Well, what I'm seeing it through my political eyes is Democrats and Republicans and politicians are kind of like dumbbells. I don't know which one to vote for, Democrat, Republican. They're not really giving me a choice. But in the middle, I'm seeing this guy and girl that I'm kind of being impressed with. And that would be Mr. Kennedy. I'm kind of impressed with the fact that he stands middle ground and refuses to fight dirty with the rest of politicians. He's strictly talking on the issues. So let me put this prop down. Over here, you see this big battery, pile of batteries. And I kind of have issues with Joe Biden mandating this electric car type thing, even here in the state of Vermont. I don't want that. I want a choice. Now we're going to go over here, and you got Mr. Trump. I respect him for many issues too. Do I disagree on selling Bibles for money? I mean, church and state issues might be separated. He was selling sneakers. I couldn't afford them. I had to buy these for $100 in Brattleboro, but I like these sneakers. I was given this King James Bible years ago, and I read it sometimes, but so that's kind of his little gig. I don't appreciate that the Democrats have totally attacked him where it's unjust for some of the stuff that's taken place. With Trump, I actually agree when he'd say, drill, baby, drill. I'm kind of glad. I got an oil fire furnace. My car runs on oil. So I kind of agree with him on that issue. Then you say in the Democratic Party, you see Mr. Biden, and I wonder, I honestly believe his age, he's too old to run. That's my fair gut instinct. And I believe somebody else is pulling the strings for the Democratic Party behind the scenes. And you're going to see that more and more down the road. With Donald Trump, over 9 million people have crossed the border. I disagree that you're going to round up 9 million people and send them back. So something needs to be worked out on that issue. Then we look at Mr. Biden. I believe he's going to start a fundraiser soon, and it's called, with these nice new slippers, and it's called Running Scared. I believe after looking at the food prices in the store, he's actually sucked every last dollar out of the American's wallet. I'd like to be able to still afford some type of food, Joe. So that kind of is your little prop. I believe this little wind-up chicken will show you right here that you're running scared, Joe. This little chicken showing me you're running scared. You're running scared to debate on national television. This little thing here is a lot of other people are making noise on YouTube, different things. And I don't like this thing called censorship. I'm glad I have a right in America to speak my voice. But you are honestly, truly shutting down anybody else that wants to debate you to have a voice in America. When I watch Boston news, any news here, nobody's even mentioning that Mr. Kennedy is running for president. And I believe like 52% of the independents and young people kind of like him. And he has family working for Mr. Biden's campaign. I believe there's 5 and there's family issues, but he should have a right to share his voice. And as I take my microphone here at Fact TV, I like to speak to the public on a lot of things. I do agree with Mr. Kennedy that there's so many chemicals in everything. Look at all these medicines and prescriptions that have been prescribed to me over the years. Do I really need them? No, I don't take any of those. We will go on to the issue of money, credit cards. Does the American people have $1,000 in their pocket? Most people don't have any money anymore. It's credit card. We're living on borrowed time, fake money. You look at this little prop I have in front of you, right? The maturity rate of individuals and childs, they say they're not fully matured until they're 26. So I lift this skull off, half a skull. And what I see in it is the CIA participates in your news, okay? It's called fake news. I call it, you get planted with a bullshit seed into your brain before you're 26 or older, and they kind of just let it grow with what you view on television. And what I've seen is they censor television, so you're not really getting the real news. Now we're going to go over to, I'm going to blow this whistle so we can adjust the volume a little bit here. And what happens to people that sometimes speak out and get a little too loud. Listen to the whistle. All right, we're done with the whistle. But the prop of the whistle is, what happened with the Boeing representative that kind of spoke up? He already predicted his own death, okay? Look into that. My friends, when we talk about love, with the rock of love that I found at Hampton Beach, I ask all Americans to find love in their heart for their fellow Republican, Independent, and Democrat. Like we said locally at local meetings, we all come as friends, let's leave as friends. When we talk about food issues, one of the issues I have is the Democratic Party just had this big fundraiser, food thing. You had to spend a lot of money to go to that fundraiser. And actually, like I said, here's a little soup dish. Well, my friends, I have a spoon here. I have a knife here. Actually, I don't get my food, actually, probably until tomorrow. Because now that I'm on disability, I get the state of Vermont food card. It's $207 a month. So I don't get to eat too many luxury items at $207. I don't have the luxury when my doctor says, Paul, your finger got damaged. I'll send you to the doctors and we'll have a pen put in it. I says, I can't go see an orthopedic surgeon to get my finger fixed. And he says, why? I says, because I have a Medicare. Medicare don't pay, and I don't got $6,000 to pay out of my pocket. Now, all you young people have been taught at your local schools, I can see why you're confused. I always thought a tomato, my whole life, was a vegetable. Well, I've studied it, and now they tell me it's a fruit. I even watched a show the other day where a potato I thought was a potato. Now they're thinking of reclassifying the potato into a fruit. So I wish you young people well, and it's going to be very confusing for you. Now we're going to go over on the other side of the issues. Mr. Kennedy he's an environmental attorney and has fought Monsanto, one of the leading ones that produce Roundup and stuff. And I agree with the food here. I have many plastic food items, from a banana to a lemon to a pear. And what brought my attention to Monsanto, and they have troubles with it, with the company in the local schools and statewide, with Charity Clark trying to sue Monsanto. Would Charity Clark be interested in actually going after Ben & Jerry's for having chemicals in their Cherry Garcia? It's a known fact in a national paper that Cherry Garcia had small traces of a Roundup. So does Charity Clark want to sue Ben & Jerry's for putting Roundup in Cherry Garcia? Now, this is a controversy type issue here, but I've been watching and studying on this issue. You see all these empty bullet shells? Bullet shells, they're all empty, so nobody get excited. I don't own a gun or anything. There's no threatening motion. Those are empty bullet shells. If you really look into the Ukraine war, I watched a thing going on there, and they said that actually Ben & Jerry's has a facility in Russia that they didn't want to close. In one of the articles I saw, they said that actually the tax money from Ben & Jerry's being in Russia goes directly to the Russian government, which helps fund the bullets that are killing Ukrainians. So somebody should look into that. It's also been brought to my attention, which somebody can look into too. You look at the war in Israel and Palestine. How many plants does Ben & Jerry's have in like you said, in Israel? I believe there's 3. They employ thousands of people. So does that tax money actually help to fund bullets too? I know Ben & Jerry's is actually in some trouble, and I don't want to go on all about them, but they got in trouble with the Abenaki Indians. And maybe on the 4th of July this coming year, they may want to give their land back to the Abenakis, the 21 acres. And then the last issues we're going to get right to real quick, because we're running out of time, is we're going to call Charity Clark. Ding, ding, ding. Charity Clark, I will be endorsing you this year. I'll endorse Becky Balint. But I'm very concerned down here in Bellows Falls. We have a stolen white vintage Cadillac that was reported to all law enforcement agencies. It still hasn't been found, but the latest issue it's come by, they said actually wasn't stolen now, and that maybe it was just an accident or mistake. But this is what the car looks like. And I'll continue work on these issues, and that's going to be it for today. And I'm going to be sporting Mr. Kennedy that actually came to Bellows Falls, his uncle, years ago. So just keep an open minded and be friends. All right, thank you very much. That's it for today's show. Hopefully you got a little education. Thank you.